Hi, this is Wallace from Capturing Reality, and I'm going to show you how to use a couple of our sample scripts. The first one will divide any reconstruction region up into a set number of rows and columns, and then it will save those smaller reconstruction regions to a folder. And the second script will load the reconstruction regions from that folder and do whatever you like with them. So let's get straight into it. So here's the first script, and the first thing it does is call setVariables.bat, which will just run this other batch file, which just sets these two variables, RealityCapture exe, which is a path to RealityCapture, and root folder, which is this, which is a path to wherever you launched the batch file from. And the next thing it's going to do is make the folder recon regions, which is the one I mentioned earlier. This is where your reconstruction regions will be saved, the smaller ones from the divided up region, if it doesn't already exist. Then it's going to ask you how many columns you'd like, then how many rows you would like, and then what it's going to do is save those two variables, total columns and total rows, to table.txt. And the reason for that is when we run the second script, use saved recon regions, that is going to load those two variables from that txt file, because it needs to know how many rows and columns you have to cycle through them. After that, you're going to be asked how much overlap you want, and if you say yes, you'll be asked what percentage of overlap you would like. Now, everything else in this script is just going to be making those reconstruction regions and saving them. I'm not going to go into it because it would be tedious and you probably don't want to change any of that stuff, but the way it works basically is it takes your original reconstruction region, then shrinks it down using those two variables, and then moves it around the grid and saves every one. So let's go back into RealityCapture, and here's my folder of scripts, and we're going to double click on the first one and run it. So I'm going to move this box out of the way so you can actually see it in action on the app. So how many columns do you want? Let's have two. Let's have two rows. And then overlap, we're not going to have any overlap first time round because I'm going to show you three use cases, and the first of which is we're going to make some orthos in the GUI. So no to that. And if you watch this region here, when I click enter, you can see it made the regions. It didn't make this one because that wasn't like part of it. That's just the script moving on to the next square, as it were. If I go back here, see it's made the folder recon regions. If I double click on that, then there we got it. Our rows and columns and named accordingly, and the original reconstruction region there. So that's done its job, and this is our next script, so we'll just take a quick look at that. Here's the next script, and as I said, the first thing it does is it loads those two variables, total rows and total columns, from that txt file. And here's the loop, which loops around all the different reconstruction regions, and everything you put here inside the loop, it's going to do to every single reconstruction region. And the way it's set up at the moment is to do absolutely nothing, and this is the way it will be published, except it has a pause here, and that's so you can do whatever you want to each region in the GUI. But I'm going to show you later how you can also remove that pause and add commands, and then it'll just cycle through doing whatever you want to each region. So I'm just going to make sure that's saved as it is. Yes, it's been saved, and we're just going to run it as it is for the time being. So let's run use saved reconstruction regions. Just going to double click it, and if you have a pause in a batch file, what happens is it says press any key. I didn't program that, and you can see it's loaded up our first region there. So I'm going to go to Tools, Auto Projection, and Render. And it's rendered the first auto projection. I'll just drag this down so you can see it, zoom in a bit. There we go, first auto projection. And then if I click back on the script and then press any key again, See, it moved to the second region, and you just keep doing that. Press any key again, move to the third region, ortho, render, script again, press any key, let's move to the final region, and I'll just render that last ortho there. So I'm just going to go back to the script, and if I press the key one more time, it just closes the batch file. So there we go, we've got an ortho for every single region. I'll just unfold my component, and if you watch the 3ds, you can see I've got these orthos that butt up very nicely onto one another. So that's the first use case. So I'm going to get rid of all of those, go back to the original model. Let's go back to that view. I just had that view to show you the orthos, and there we go. So we're ready to run again. I'm just going to right click on my recon regions and delete, right click on my table and delete, and we will run divide recon regions again. So how many columns? Let's have 4 this time. Let's have 2 rows, and this time let's have some overlap. So yes, and let's have 9%. That's quite a lot. Oh, see it doing its business in the background there. So there we go. Let's have a look at our table. See, 4 columns, 2 rows, and inside the reconstruction regions there we've got 8 reconstruction regions this time with overlap. So this time we actually don't want to pause every time. We don't do anything in the GUI. We're going to calculate a preview model, and it's going to just cycle through each one, creating a preview model. So, and we're going to save the models as well. So I'm going to get rid of the pause, and I've already written my commands. So I'm just going to copy them, and I'm going to paste them in there. So calculate preview model, export selected model, and if you this export command will create folders if you put them in the path. So I've put the models folder in there, even though it doesn't exist yet, but it will create it. Now the only other thing is, if you are making a load of models, you either need to put another counter into here and add that as a variable to the end, but I've already got rows and columns and they count up as we cycle through the loops anyway, so I'm just going to use those, and then my models will be named after their corresponding rows and models just by using those changing variables. So that's actually ready to go. Let's save it, otherwise it won't do anything different to last time. Minimize that, and let's run. Use reconstruction regions, and there you can see the overlap there. It's a bit hard behind the dark band there, but there you go. There's model 5, 6, and just 2 more, 7 and 8. And there's the models. If I zoom in on this area here and then switch between 7 and 8, you can see the overlap there. So that's another useful method. So let's just get rid of those before I show you the final use case. And we'll click on our original model there. View, vertices. Let's see those tie points again. Okay, lovely jubbly. So there's a model, and I'll just go back into here and we'll delete those models. We'll delete the reconstruction regions and delete the table, and we will run. Let's run the divider again. How many columns do you want? Let's do 3 by 3. And overlap, we want none, because what I'm going to do the last one is we're going to divide up an already built model using the cut by box tool. So no overlap there. There it goes through again, making the 9 regions, and then it closes itself. So let's go into our use reconstruction regions.bat, and this time we want to put a pause back in because we're working in the GUI again. But what we need to do is make sure that we have the correct model selected. So we're just going to use the select in capital model command, and then let's go into the GUI and copy our model name, original model, and then I'm going to put these two commands up in this section above here, which runs before we get into our loop around the reconstruction regions. So let's save that, file save, minimize it, open up our folder, and let's run, let's change the view to suite first, so you can see the model nicely there, and minimize that, and let's run use saved reconstruction regions. And we're back to similar to the first use case where you have the press any key situation, and there is selected the first box there. So we can go to tools, cut by box, and cut outer. There we go, and then press any key, moves to the next region, cut by box, cut outer, and then just keep press any key, cut outer, press any key, cut outer, etc. I'm not going to run through all nine models, but you get the idea there. We could just cut it up, and you can see if I go and zoom right in, you can see they butt up really nicely to one another. So that's the final use case. So I hope you find this script useful, and thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.